Good morning, folks, and welcome to another Haddletons podcast. This podcast is about Haddletons' corporate function, and particularly its involvement in the defence industry. My name is Jeremy Charles Espley, and I am head of corporate at Haddletons. My career, I've been qualified as a solicitor for 30 years. I've worked in the city at firms such as Fox Williams. I've worked for multinational companies, particularly Logica, where I spent 10 years as international general counsel and did a great deal of work with the MOD, which is something we want to highlight. I'm very lucky to be joined by a colleague of mine, Nick Flint, and I'll allow Nick to explain his background and present activities to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, my name is Nick Flint, as you've kindly introduced, and I am a management consultant. I have a small firm called EWAMS, 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 and that stands for Ends, Ways and Means Strategy. And I specialise in design, development and delivery and implementation of strategy for organisations, large and small. And I also specialise in capability development. And that means that if an organisation is trying to do something it's never done before and it finds it a challenge, that's where I can help. So although I am a management consultant right now, I am in the foothills of being a management consultant, been so for a couple of years now, previously 30 years in the military. And so, which is, I guess, is why you're keen to chat about the work with the MOD. Just delighted to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I shall be at the DSEI in London. And Nick, we wanted to talk a little bit because obviously we're in a new era now. After the Strategic Defence Review, we're in a new era. There is a new impetus, a new urgency about particularly the European countries and particularly the UK and its leadership within NATO. There is a particular emphasis on us being able to scale up our military capabilities, which have been allowed to decline since the Cold War. There's a pressing need, both from the Americans demanding of us, through Putin's actions, telling us that this is certainly a necessary course. And I think when you see, I don't wish to be political, but when you see bodies like the Coalition of the Willing, there is a desire amongst European countries to be defence capable. And therefore, I think there is more emphasis than ever that I have seen in my entire 30-year career on the UK being able, on the MOD, being able to access the very best innovation that we have in this country. I think Ukraine has shown us that it's not only the biggest defence companies who can provide the best solutions. And so I think Nick and I want to talk a little bit about what it's like to contract with the MOD and how perhaps the MOD needs to modify its approach a little bit so that it gets the very best in innovation from this country. Nick, what do you think?
Well, I mean, let's talk about the SDR, the Strategic Defence Review. So, big ticket items from there are that there's going to be there's a NATO first policy. There's an increase in defence spending up 2.5% by 2027, and there is an intent to strengthen the relationship between defence and industry. Forever has it been thus. But in particular, this strategic defence review is looking to unlock that and optimise that relationship. So I think rather than necessarily talking about how MOD operates, they'll have their strategy for that. But when we first discussed and realised that we had something in common here and something to talk about, I think the key thing is how does legal counsel help industry, particularly smaller companies, startups, to be part of that and take advantage of the opportunity that's unfortunately arising as a result of defence and security concerns. So I think the thing I would like to really talk about and get out into the open today is what it is that these small firms who might be looking to do business with the MOD, they might be looking to do business with larger companies that already do business with the MOD. So a range of frameworks and circumstances under which they connect and contribute. How do we do that? What do they look for in a legal firm? What are they looking for to help them succeed in that area?
Yes. No, I think that's very, very important. And I think, as I said, the Ukrainian conflict has shown us that the MOD, just as Ukrainian Ministry of Defense does, must have access to the latest technologies wherever they arise. Now, the latest technologies may, in some circumstances, arise in traditional big players, but often they don't. There can be innovation. This is a technology-driven sector now. They can arise at any place in the sector. And then I think there's more than a commercial advantage in helping those firms to properly access and contract with the MOD. There's also a national requirement. I think this must be done. I think the MOD must be in a position where it can cast its net widely to get the very best in innovation, which often doesn't come from the traditional suppliers. My own experience of MOD procurement is based on my 10 years as International General Counsel for Logica. By the time I left, we were a business with a 7 billion market cap in the FTSE 100. And year on year, between 24-23% of our work was done with the MOD. And I had a great deal of experience of working with MOD procurement, as well as working with procurement in other government departments. So I worked with Ofsted, I worked with various different government departments. Perhaps in light of what I'm going to say, it's not particularly helpful to mention them. But the thing about MOD procurement, and this should give heart to small companies who want to contract with MOD procurement. I can tell you from absolute experience, from 30 years experience in this industry, that the MOD procurement, in terms of government procurement, attracts the very best people in terms of lawyers and commercial managers. It attracts the best. Because it is so mission critical, it attracts better people than you get in other departments. And what does this mean? It means that the people who are there have a great deal of understanding, are very capable people, and so are far more amenable to particular contractual, be they legal or commercial changes, than people in other government departments. So really, in some ways, we start with an advantage. And also, the MOD, as opposed to other government procurement divisions, tends to have long retention of people. And once you've done a deal successfully, they tend to have faith in you and understand that the next contract, the next iteration will also work. Mm. And if you have a long history of dealing with the MOD, as Logica did, you also realise that sometimes it's the mechanisms you put in place to manage things when they go slightly askew that the MOD really appreciates. So one of the things I experienced in dealing with the MOD was some very large contracts. We're talking about contracts of 100 million to 500 million pounds that Logica did for the MOD. One of the things they liked was I built in mechanisms for getting things back on track when they went slightly off key. So, for instance, I put in service credit regimes. So if we're supposed to be delivering to the MOD at 99% and it slips to 96%, we give them a mechanism. So we actually bear penalties. We pay what are called liquidated damages at a pre-agreed level until we go back to the right level. And the MOD really appreciated that, because what the big boys, I mean, Logica were big boys, but what the big traditional big boys tended to give them was no such mechanism for helping when the contract went slightly askew. They gave them what was always called then, maybe it's poor taste, I hope not, the red button, which was a reference to the nuclear button. You can terminate the contract. But that isn't actually what the MOD wants. It wants a good mechanism which commercially incentivizes the supplier to get back on track.
Yeah, God, there's a number of things you've raised there, Jeremy. I think from my point of view, from a strategist point of view, a management consultant point of view, what would I be saying? What would I be looking for? How would I be advising, looking to help companies looking to do business with the MOD? They think they've got something they want to supply. If you have a strategy, many of your risks and opportunities, particularly if you're going to do business with the government, are going to be around compliance, making sure, mitigating significant risk, taking advantage of opportunities. And I guess the thing I would be looking for as a company from legal support or legal counsel is that ability to understand what I'm trying to do, what my strategy is, what my tolerance for risk is, what I'm prepared to do, what I'm not prepared to do, and turning that into something that is legally sound and enforceable, but fair. And of course, then you've got recognizing that's got to survive contact with the government's legal counsel. Now, how the MOD operates in terms of its contracts is not something I am a specialist in any way, shape or form. However, it's unlikely to be as fluid and dynamic and innovative and flexible as perhaps the private sector. So how do you reconcile those requirements of the company that are a private industry? How do you reconcile them with a government organization? Yes. And particularly when you're dealing with such sensitive activity.
Yes.
And that would be, if I was a company, that's what I would want Haddletons to tell me how they can handle that.
Yes. And I think in many respects, this is always an iterative process. It always improves with time. So the MOD is more flexible than people would imagine. It's because it has high quality people in place there in the procurement department. It's more receptive to change and ideas than people would imagine. But
that's where most technology is born of, unfortunately.
Yes.
Conflict. So they have to be.
I think it's always more difficult on the first occasion when one interacts with them. But as I say, the MOD
why is it more difficult on the first occasion? What's
because one is
sounding each other out? And
no, okay, sure.
What is it?
Because one is breaking ground.
Mm.
So over the 10 years at Logica, I was often dealing with the same person, and they'd seen that what I'd put in place was fair, even worked when there was a slight problem and helped to rectify it. So there is a thing of establishing credibility, and I think that's something we can do at Haddletons, because the chances are the person dealing with us will perhaps have dealt with me before. But even without that particular situation, my experience is that MOD procurement is, despite what everybody might think, amongst the most agile in government, is staffed by the most capable people. Mm. And if, based on experience, and you are making logical, sensible arguments, they are receptive. But there is no doubt that the MOD responds to previous experience. Mm. You know, like many businesses, it works on a system of precedents. So it is always reassured to see negotiators. It knows.
So you've obviously helped them. You've helped do business legal to legal with the government.
Yes.
Have you? And are you capable of doing assisting companies that might want to merge or are being acquired or seeking to merge as part of a larger capability, a larger firm? Because
yes.
I mean, I think there's going to be a vast number of a lot of prime companies will sweep up these new tech boys and these new companies, won't they?
But
is that going to be more, do you think that'd be likely to more?
Yes, Nick,
your
I
field
do.
Or not?
I do. M&A is very much my field and something I can assist with. But I think even before we get to that point, at the moment, because what the MOD is interested in is the very cutting edge of technology. Sometimes what we find is it's a consortium of providers who can offer that, a consortium of small suppliers who together can offer that. The MOD is not very used to contracting with multiple entities. It doesn't like it. And I understand why government departments don't like this, because they like to be able to lay off the liability to one legal entity to value it. So forming a special purpose vehicle or a joint venture, even before we get to the point of companies acquiring others, which is happening in the sector without doubt, is also a very good and sound contractual approach for multiple SMEs who together have a really, really good solution. And when I do this, and I've seen this arising a lot since the Strategic Defence Review, and as I say, I'm working on one of these at the moment. And what I do is I draw on my experience from Logica when we would have a large number of subcontractors, and they had to be allied into a cohesive entity in order to provide the supply that was required. So when it comes to that, Nick, when it comes to a number of small entities operating together, then I think yes, a special purpose vehicle, a joint venture, because the MOD is a creature of habit, a creature of precedence. Well, there's nothing wrong in that. The law is a creature of precedence. The MOD likes to be able to contract with one entity and know that's where its liabilities in both regards lie.
You mentioned you're going to a DSEI 25, Defence
yes,
and Security,
I'm very excited about
International
that, Nick,
Defence Security and Equipment International 2025. I think that's a great place to go if you're. I'm
going there for the full 4 days, Nick. So
right.
Haddletons is really, really committed to this.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think that's the place to go, given your what we're discussing. And I was interested to know what you would. I mean, what's your game plan when you're at DSEI? I mean, you're going to be presumably you're going to be wandering around, talking to potential suppliers, and what are you going to say to them? What is it you're trying to say to them?
Right. So, well, I mean, firstly, what am I going to do when I'm wandering around? Well, I've lined up a number of contacts, well-placed people who can obviously introduce me to the right people. But I think what I'm going to be saying to people, especially perhaps, I think those who'd be receptive to my message are perhaps the SMEs, the smaller suppliers. I'm going to be saying, look, I'm here as an enabler. I have a track record in dealing with the MOD. And chances are you put me in front of the MOD folks and they're going to know me, or at least know who I am. So I have long experience of representing those frontline large firms that are negotiating directly with the MOD. But I think now, because we must access, I know people don't like these expressions in terms of defense, but I see this as a moral mission. We have to defend ourselves. And we have to access the very best in technology, regardless of where it's being produced. So our government, those who protect us, must not miss out on the opportunities to do that because it comes from small companies. So I'm going to be saying to those people I meet, particularly the SMEs, Nick, particularly the SMEs. I mean, I don't really think the very large defense companies, yes, I'll help them, and they probably know me, and I'll help them if I can. But I think my real mission here is to help, as Haddletons always says, the small companies with the big ideas.
Yeah, no, I think that's where you're,
and that's where I can really help.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, when I like working with smaller companies as well, with big ideas. I like, they've got energy, drive, and I like to try and add that strategic wisdom to them,
yes,
if they'll have me. But I think that's a powerful mix, and I guess it's nice to hear that you're. Yeah, it is a moral mission, and I'm
glad you agree with me on that, because sometimes I feel a bit po-faced when I say it.
No.
I actually believe it, and it's part of what's motivating.
But you've got to live that. You've got to live those values in the way that
I live it, and I'm being supported by Haddletons in this because they believe in this too.
No, so that's absolutely critical. So, if I was a small firm, entering into this world, and I know I've got something. I want the sort of people I'm going to be looking for are people I can trust, who understand me, are going to share my values, have got values of their own, have got integrity, honesty, drive. They're going to, the loyalty to an initiative. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Nick, can we say loyalty to a nation?
Absolutely, we can. Absolutely, and I like to think of it as loyalty to an idea, which is that peace and security, a loyalty to that idea,
peace and security, yes,
that ideal. So, I would be looking. I think as let's think left of spectrum. You may have some really new, really nascent. Suppliers with some sort of capability, some sort of technology, and they're going to, this is going to be their first time. This will be a big deal for them.
But they may have a brilliant idea,
exactly,
which we need. Yeah,
right, exactly. But they are, this is going to be a big deal for them, and that conversation you have with them will be everything. So, I mean, how you open that up with people, because I don't know, a lot of people tend to see legal as a liability, an outgoing, not a sale per se. But the key thing is as you say, is being an enabler. I mean, I can say that
enabling business. I
know that because, of course, you enabled a lot of my business.
Oh, thank you, Nick. Thank you.
It's fine. I mean, I'm just a small business, but I'm. The point is, I've learned firsthand what the addition of good legal counsel will do, because it moved me from one state to a new state with a contract. So that is as a key enabler. That's what they're after. That's what they want.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's after. So I think that conversation with people is going to be critical at DSCI, finding those people. And I guess without turning this this discussion into how you're going to approach DSI is what are you going to say to them? How do you bring it out? And I guess, I think the first thing is to explain what it is you do, how you can enable their business, how you can change them from what can you give them, what benefit is keeping in contact with Jeremy Espley. What's the benefit of keeping his card and doing business with him and Haddletons? Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely do, and I do. And I think it is those small companies with the big ideas we should be targeting. I should tell them what I do. But the lovely thing about having worked for a company as large as Logica, if they're interested, they can look. I mean, everything I've done, all these large MOD contracts I've done, these are all a matter of public record. I don't need to oversell what I can do. I mean, I think I sincerely tell them my belief. I'm guessing that this is going to be what motivates a lot of these small companies, a lot of these people. They're going to have this same sincere belief that this must be done, the same belief I have. And I think if I can communicate that and they can see I'm genuine in that, I think they will, then they can very easily verify that I've done what I say I have. I don't need to sort of push that too much, is how I feel. But
legal advice comes at a cost. I mean, in the consultancy world, it's a little bit the same. There's a period where you sort of sound each other out and you look at what you can do.
Yes.
And if that can be done in a dare I say it, a non-chargeable way, in terms of you're looking at them as a potential prospect, they're looking at you as a prospect.
Yes.
What's your approach to that? What's Haddleton's approach to that? Because, people are quite tentative around, committing to something. What's the pathway to that? How do you approach that? How will you approach that when you come to have a conversation with someone like that?
Yes, I think that's a very good point. And I think both parties have to satisfy themselves about the potential of the other. So we would always want to look at key documentation to talk to the clients. And I'll go back to this point I made before. I do think that the fact that everything I've done with Logica is a matter of public record, I do think that is a great advantage because they can see there without me telling them it that I have done this and I am capable of this. There is always a period when both parties have to become comfortable with each other. And I tend to take the approach that no effort is too much. No effort is too much if one has an instinct that it's leading to the right. Don't forget, with being at Logica, I come from a technology background. So I encounter people with defense ideas. I don't claim to be a defense expert, but I see the technological possibilities of an idea. And when I see that, then I'm strongly motivated. And sitting behind that, yes, of course, I'm looking to engage them as a client for Haddletons and make money for Haddletons. That's my day-to-day raison d'etre. Of course it is. But I also have this sort of sense which I've described before. There is some sort of moral duty to make sure that this country in its leadership role in NATO gets the very best technology available. You see, in parallel, I have seen how this works. All right, non-military technology, but just give you an example, yeah? So when I started my career at Logica, the first thing I did was the acquisition of a company called Oldiscon in Ireland. Now, Oldiscon had invented what we today call text. They had invented the SMS protocol, without which no mobile phone system in the world could operate. So you come across something like that, and it's clearly, it's life-changing. We then went all out to acquire that company, and we acquired it. And it gave us a dominant market position for 10 years. It's very, very important to access that transformational technology wherever one may find it. And so I would also, and also at Haddletons, we're absolutely about supporting that transformational technology. I mean, our great byline is supporting small companies with big ideas. And that is an example of how that may happen. And I think at the moment, following the Strategic Defence Review, following the explosion of AI, we are going to see more and more examples of that. And at Haddletons, we want to help capture that technology, help people, those who've developed it, to capture it, to promote it, to hold their value in it, to prevent value leakage, to take the full value they deserve from that. And also, as I say, and people can disagree with me, but I believe in the moral duty of making the very latest technology that will enhance all of our safety in Europe to the MOD.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. So, given the NATO first and the so Euro-Atlantic, European responsibilities, the obligations in that sort of region to defence and security, there's going to be there is a international flavour to law, and probably increasingly, I would imagine. So, we know there are organisations which deal with innovation, sort of acceleration hubs, where they're looking at finding the latest technologies, innovating quickly, bringing it to market, putting it into the into operational use as quickly as possible. And it's an international game, and I guess it's not. You don't want to limit yourself just by being British looking. Clearly, you can do that. But what about the international side? Can you deal with that?
Well, can I deal with that? I'm probably quite unusual in having done deals, significant deals, in 44 different jurisdictions globally, and having spent 25 years of my life living abroad. And I was doing deals in those jurisdictions before it was Zoom. Fly Jeremy over to Jakarta and Jeremy will do this. And that was how it was done. I mean, I've taken many things from that, and I've obviously managed all those jurisdictions for long periods of time. Of course, what one takes away is that English law is the international law of choice, far more than any US law, far more than anything else. Just as English is the lingua franca of the world, so English law is the choice for businesses. And of course, there are many jurisdictions which are based on English law, and sometimes I found myself agreeing to those because one can look at the date of independence and work out what the laws were based on the time period. But there are probably few people who, hand on heart, matter of public record, have done more significant international deals in more jurisdictions. That is one of the things I bring to Haddletons, my extensive international experience.
So if you were going to offer advice, sort of poacher term gamekeeper, what practical advice would you give to small companies seeking legal counsel?
Come to me.
Yeah. Do you want to expand on that one a little bit?
I have a sort of core belief in life. If you want to do, I mean, not that I mean to disparage the young, but if you want to get something done in this world, in this life, you go to someone who's done it before. That really is a low risk way of approaching many things in life, including international legal negotiations or any legal negotiations. Now, of course, people have to be trained up all the time so the next generation comes through. But it is a genuinely good way of reducing risk. Go to someone who's done it before and has a track record in doing it. And that is something that I can offer.
Well, I mean, if I was I think there's quite a lot that a company can do beforehand in terms of its own research before it seeks specific support. I mean, the compliance and legislation and processes for interacting with MOD, etc., are all out there on the open source, aren't they? So there's a huge amount of reading that companies can do beforehand to understand where the risks and opportunities are. Yeah,
it's helpful. It gives background, but it won't necessarily flag the risks or tell you what's going to happen. It's like the position where accountants come to you with a great piece of tax legislation. Oh, we follow this, we save you this, this, and this. And my first question to my clients, or for myself or my business, will always be, okay, has it been tested in court? Has it gone to court? And if it hasn't, there's a great deal of uncertainty. And it's the same about all that information that's out there. It's not all that publicly published information. It's a great thing, and I believe in great transparency, and it's not necessarily going to tell you where the risks lie. Nick, I'm just thinking about the increased need probably for the MOD procurement function to reach out to a broader spectrum of providers because of the way technology is developing. What do you think about the way that public procurement is now interacting with the private sector?
Well, yeah, I've got some experience having worked in the world of capability development, but less so on the sort of harder edge in terms of the actual procurement and the contracting and the commercial side of it. But it is I'm not going to say it's a minefield. It's fraught with obviously a lot of legislation, compliance, processes, etc. And I would imagine that there are a lot of very promising companies, a lot of promising capabilities, developing capabilities that have fallen by the wayside as a result of just not surviving contact with the process.
Really, that's very interesting.
Well, I mean, it's again, I've got nothing to. I can't cite examples, but they are a big organisation to approach the government. So I think they need every kind of help they can. I mean, DSI is an opportunity where the two worlds come together. So as I've said before, that's a real, really rich territory for you and for them, So they should be they'll be on their guard. They'll be at the top of their game, trying to find out what who can help them get where they need to be.
So the DSEI is genuinely used by the MOD to look at the status of the state of innovation and development. They're genuinely interested from that perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, they'll be absolutely they are. I mean,
to me that's Nick. Sorry, that's just fascinating to me because I always imagined that they would know what was going on anyway. But the MOD genuinely comes there looking what's there in the market.
Absolutely.
That to me is incredible. That's really exciting to me and makes me think it's all the better to be going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they are they know what they want to do. It's from a capability development point of view, it's fascinating. We know what the problem is, and the problems are vast. We know the security challenges. We know that our opponents around the world are seeking new and more deniable ways of interfering with the way our country runs, destabilizing our country. And the solutions for these sorts of things are, well, in many ways beyond our wildest dreams, to be honest with you. I don't know what they are, and nor are we all likely to find out. Nevertheless, as I said, as we said right at the start when we started talking, the relationship between the industry and the state and the requirement or the genesis of technological developments has always advanced hugely after conflict. The bigger the conflict, the greater the technology. That's what arms races are about. And so, we are in that game right now.
But Nick, I think this is, I'm sort of surprised by your answer. Maybe I don't know the industry well enough, but I'm really, really excited by the fact that the DSEI is genuinely where the MOD goes to look at what's available. I mean, that's, of course, it makes sense when I think about it. That's why it's such high security to get in, to get cleared to attend. That's why I've got to carry my passport as well as my pass and my ticket, yeah?
Well, it's not the only place they go.
No, but clearly,
it's where they all meet.
No, Nick, I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just saying it's incredibly exciting. So it really is a really pivotal conference, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this is where, I mean, it's a huge networking event.
Yeah,
but it's a critical networking event.
It's just
and you'll see some incredible displays by some of the larger organisations, the equipment that they've made, the equipment that they're producing for the Ministry of Defence, and at the same time, down at the back end of the Excel Centre, you're going to find some small stand with some individual on there explaining the latest scopes or small technology or little black box technology that they've produced, and so you really have to sort of take an interest and find out what it is.
I shall go and speak to them and find out if it's of use and if it can be sold to the MOD and offer my services.
I think as well, if you from your point of view, it's really important to have to spend some time thinking about what the future might look like. Anyone can live in the here and now, and there's plenty of information out there for companies like yourself to look at what the trends are. Where's it going? What's happening? And then applying it, working it backwards to what does that mean to me? I mean, I do it all the time, but in particular, you want to be well prepared for that. For that event.
And that's an event which helps people to determine that, where things are going, yeah?
Absolutely, because you'll be introduced to new capabilities, new technology, new ideas, new initiatives, which haven't quite got off the ground. We talked about cyber, AI. Who knows about what this is capable? But it is absolutely fascinating, isn't it?
It is fascinating, and it makes me but this all makes me all the more pleased that I am on behalf of Haddletons going to be there for those 4 days. This really is. Yeah. This really is a pivotal conference. Yeah?
I mean, I must admit, it's not. It is. When we were talking first about when we first met, both harrogations, as you call it.
And recently, both of us fairly recently moved to Harrogate. And looking for absolutely.
Yeah, so when we first talked about this, it wasn't. I guess they're not going to be on the top 10 of list of companies you'd expect to see at DSEI as law firms. However, why wouldn't you? How critical is that function, that service, to making this all work? In many ways, it's the glue that binds it all together. Gives it that legal entities, that legal enforceability, that legal protection of all these, sort of ethereal ideas that need to be brought together, materialized, and actually delivered. I mean, that is a difficult job.
Not to be sort of pious about it, but there is no sphere where the law is more important than where people are producing things which are capable of lethal force. This is an area where the law must be closely involved.
Yeah.
Because after all, all of these systems, they're designed for the use by civilized societies, resisting societies who do not share those values. So our adherence to law, be it in contract or be it criminal law, is an absolute key, isn't it? It's a key distinguisher. It identifies us, as as not Putin, if one wants to be, crude about it.
Well, from my point of view, I we're talking about, legal services, legal advice and that's your sector, right? Fine.
Absolutely.
But, the idea that the process of getting an idea through to delivery, what you would call sort of concept to capability, fascinates me. And it's something I've worked on in defence in the past, and has so much read across to the private sector. It doesn't matter whether you're delivering, I don't know, some sort of small service or not. The concept's the same. How do you get the idea through to fruition and delivered? And that process requires huge focus. And
it has to be captured contractually.
Well, absolutely. So there will be periods of time where, the legal element will serve to provide that focus, provide that vehicle to move it from one stage to the next. And I guess I see the legal side as being something that it's kind of a joint venture in many ways, and but that process of getting an idea. How many people do you know have had bright ideas and they've just fallen by the wayside? And you look at the people that have succeeded, and one of the things characteristics they've got is that perseverance, that sort of real detailed focus.
I've seen it in my career repeatedly, Nick, and it's one of the most frustrating things. And sometimes you encounter somebody who has a brilliant idea. You know that it can be a world-beating idea, and they will not spend the very small initial legal fees to capture it. And that is so frustrating. It really is. If there's one thing that's frustrated me over the last 30 years, it would be that. To the extent when I have, from off my own bat, just done it for nothing because that idea must come to fruition. And because that person is being so short-sighted.
That makes me think of NDAs.
Yeah.
Right? So if first thing, a lot of time I tend to do is if I'm going to talk to someone about something that's important to me, that I think I've got intellectual property over. It's my idea and I don't really want anyone else using it. I probably, it's probably an idea a million other people have had. Nevertheless, you want to protect it. First thing I do is an NDA.
Yes.
Okay. Really, not onerous, nothing, just binds you to a bit of privacy, secrecy.
And I believe I've
other.
asked you to sign an NDA when I discuss certain things about Haddletons with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's presumably something you can do. You would do.
Those very easy to do. And those are enforceable.
Yeah.
And those are legitimate when you're protecting genuine business information, genuine IPR. They're entirely legitimate. And they have nothing to do with these sort of much vaunted and much criticized NDAs. When someone has signed an NDA not to say they were sexually assaulted by somebody, which for goodness sake is not legally enforceable anyway.
No, it's criminal activity.
But an NDA is an entirely respectable, defensible and sensible instrument when simply protecting sensitive information, be it actual intellectual property or be it it's confidential business information.
So I remember when James Haddleton came to speak to us at the Harrogate Business Group, and he talked about value leakage.
Yes.
Okay, which sounds a bit at the start, but value leakage was, and he actually focused quite a bit on intellectual property.
Yes.
And regardless of whether it really is and it's going to lead anywhere or not, but the point is. And I guess it talks about that pathway from concept to capability, which is, a concept. Let's start protecting all these ethereal things we've got right from the get-go to ensure a smooth movement. And I must admit, over time, certainly when I transitioned from the military to the private sector.
Yes.
Basically,
You're still transitioning,
when I
believe,
left.
Nick.
Yeah, I don't call myself an ex-employee. It sounds like I was sacked. I call myself a retiree. So when I moved from there, what I've realised in time is that ability or that requirement to protect yourself all the way as you move along, because it used to be that you had very little to worry about. You got given, really challenging responsibilities in defence, but there was a wrap around you. And when that's taken away, you realize how exposed and how isolated you possibly are. So you need to look to people to help you with that, and systems and mechanisms and vehicles to help you with that. You do
indeed. And the value of a company can lie almost exclusively in that. Now, look, let me give you a good example. So for a long time, I was general counsel of a company. Now, this company, whilst I was there, went from a 1 billion market cap to a 7 billion market cap. It owned not a single brick. At one point, it owned, through a botched acquisition of mine, it owned a country house and some polo ponies, but we realized that was a mistake and I sold them off. And so its value was, of course, the customer contracts it had and its IPR. About 4 billion of its value was its protected IPR. So yes, people should never overlook that.
No. I mean, you can have,
it's surprising
even your processes are valuable.
Yes.
I remember I've had
Do you know, you're so right. I mean, I've done some very large IT outsourcing contracts around the world, and we would be designing bespoke IPR, which we would give to the client, but we would always expressly reserve our processes and methodology. Now, they were not actually protectable, but they weren't registrable, but they were nonetheless, we protected them contractually because our ability to do that, our knowledge to do that was absolutely part of our ability to deliver a repeatable solution. Well, and we all know that the secret to successful business is a repeatable solution.
Yeah. So, in terms of that, and many people will know that, your processes play a major part in the success of your company, the success of a business. So, I remember I'm probably a bit of a singling myself out as a bit of a geek here, but or a bit of a geek. But I remember being fascinated by companies that had processes whereby to start the job, someone would have on their desk a shadow board. And in that shadow board, there'd be a shadow for a pen. Do you know what I mean by a shadow board?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, it tends to see them in workshops where there's tools. So if there's a tool missing, there's a shadow there. Where's the tool? Why is it not there? So you've got your pen, you've got your notepad, you've got your sellotape, you've got your stapler. Now, it sounds really simplistic, but if the individual who's running that station isn't set up with exactly those resources and knows exactly where they are, they're going to be wasting time finding them. They're not going to be able to do the job exactly as they want them. So, as you say, repeatable processes. If my family are watching this, they'll berate me for using that because I try to instill standard operating procedures in my house.
There is a lovely. Do you remember that lovely moment? Pierce Brosnan was my favourite Bond. There's a lovely Bond scene where he climbs out of a completely collapsed and burnt out Aston Martin, and the girl next to him says, "Do you destroy every vehicle you ever drive?" And he looks at her and says, "Standard operating procedure."
Yes, very good. It's evolution. Does it work? Yes, it was pretty good. How do we improve it? Okay, lessons learned, bring it in, change it. It becomes the new and evolved. It's an evolution. And each evolution is better than the last. And each evolution allows you to operate within the environment you operate in better. It's, Darwinism at its best.
No, absolutely. I mean, silly, simplistic example. You introduced me to some clients and I prepared a shareholder agreement for them. Quite a few participants. I charged them a sort of fairly standard value. And they said to me, "Well, we need 2 more. Will they each cost the same as the first one?" I said, "No, they'll cost 1/5. Because it's a repeatable solution. Because I understand what your bespoke design for a shareholder agreement is." What?
That was a slip up, wasn't it? No, I'm joking.
No, but I mean, repeatable solutions.
Absolutely.
These are the way to do business.
Absolutely. Once you've broken that ground, for them, they're probably delighted to hear that, I should imagine.
They were very pleased.
I bet they were, yeah. Yeah, but these,
Wolf was kicking me under the table.
Well, I just think that that process and bringing people along with you who operate like that, and I guess it's these. You could say you're over-egging your thinking on these, but I don't think you can. To be honest with you, I think that the devil's in the detail on this sort of stuff, and the way you operate. And businesses are, there's a specific way of operating, I think, to be successful, he said, hoping to be successful in due course. But, I do think that one of the underlying characteristics is that repeatability.
I think that's so key. I really think that's so key. The most inspirational business leader I ever knew, he believed in two things, repeatable solutions and hunting elephants, i.e. going after the big deal.
Right, okay.
Probably not a very PC expression these days, is it? But
yeah.
This was the early noughties. Hunting elephants was a popular expression.
Well, it's interesting. I've had some conversations with some new business owners about their business, and part of just consultation or just chats really. And one of the things that's occurred to me is that how much like how successful Dragon's Den is. Yeah. Yes. You begin to see. The more you operate in the business world, the more you find yourself asking those questions that come up there. Of course, that's a much richer, edited take on it. But really, that's getting to the nub of it. And I find that there are many people who have huge energy, great ideas, and just flounder on, for example, the strategy part. Companies tend to operate on the here and now.
From my perspective, I watch it with people who will ask me, why have they asked for this percentage? Why have they asked for that percentage? And this is something we've discussed in another context. And it's always very clear to me that not having someone to advise you on the significance, the ramifications of having a particular minority shareholding as opposed to another, or not having properly protected minority rights is so important. And if you don't have any basic understanding of that, and if you don't have someone looking out for your interests, those dragons are going to just, take you for everything.
Yeah.
And even if you do make a success, they've created a constitutional construct where you've got nothing. They can kick you out at any time and you're going to make no money. And there are real life examples of that happening after Dragon's Den. Whereas if those people going, I know they probably can't afford a lawyer, but if they just had a lawyer to advise them going in, they would have made a different choice. I see it time and time again, to the extent that it frustrates me. I almost can't watch it because those dragons, knowing the basics of shareholdings and the ramifications, are just hoodwinking those people. I watch it and I think, oh God, it just irritates me because I think it's unfair.
Well, increasingly, or my experience is that there is usually something out there. Someone's done this before you and someone's got an answer to it. So when it comes to shares, it comes to percentages, comes to commissions, it comes to, rates, loan services, whatever. There is someone out there who's already done it. You can have a general idea about what you want. And so I guess what I'm saying is really valuable to chat. I found when we chatted, you provide a lot of answers which gave me some reassurance that someone's already done this. There's already a vehicle for this.
To be fair, Nick, it helped us between us to choose the right path.
Absolutely,
which you have effectively implemented. There's no substitute for that.
No.
Whereas going in, one can only lose going in without understanding these basic things.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is it's a bit of a big up to Haddletons, but I think now they've got this corporate capability with you. Now they've established that. I think that's a real win for them. And
thank you.
I'd certainly encourage anyone to chat to you first.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I found it very useful.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you.